Can you? Can you? Can you? Can you? Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, early arrivals to the Shrine of Remembrance, this Vietnam Veterans Day commemoration is due to distinguished guests at 11 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, early arrivals to the Shrine of Remembrance. Today, we commemorate the 60th anniversary members of the Australian Army. Distinguished guests arrival in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, early arrivals to the Shrine of Remembrance. Today, we commemorate the 60th anniversary commemoration of the 50th distinguished guests arrival of the ladies and gentlemen, early arrivals to the Shrine of Remembrance. Today, we commemorate the 60th anniversary commemoration of the 50th distinguished guests arrival of the ladies and gentlemen, early arrivals to the Shrine of Remembrance. Today, we commemorate the 60th car park, and is being met by Shrine Trustee Mr. Roger Clifton and Vietnam Veterans Victoria Branch State President Mr. Bob Elworthy. The Premier, Mr. Clifton and Mr. Elworthy will remain at the Legacy Gardens car park to receive Her Excellency the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, and Mr. Howard. So this annual commemoration that comes around on the 18th of August each year, and has done so for many decades, is a very special commemoration on many fronts. The young people who went to Vietnam, the regular soldiers, Navy and Air Force folk who also went to Vietnam, and from 1962, when the training team went into Vietnam, it was not until 1972 did the last pull out of Vietnam, being the training team. They were the first into Vietnam in 62 and the last out in 1972. So the 60th anniversary members of the Australian Army training team, their arrival in Vietnam is commemorated at this ceremony today, along with the Battle of Long Tan, perhaps one of many battles, but widely recognised by most as the battle that depicts and stands as the centrepiece of the battles in the Vietnam conflict, this being the 56th anniversary on this day. And then, of course, the 50th anniversary withdrawal of the last Australian combat troops from Australia's area of operations in South Vietnam. So at this point, we await the arrival of the Governor of Victoria in the next few minutes. So by way of format, at 11 o'clock, the units will step off from the northern end of the forecourt area, and the Australian flags, in a tribute to the nations that had boots on the ground in the fight against communist forces in Vietnam, Mentone cadets will carry the national flags of Australia, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, the Philippines, Thailand, Republic of China, Taiwan, United States of America, former Republic of South Vietnam, and following the flags will be our Vietnam veterans and Vietnamese veterans. At this moment, Her Excellency the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, and Mr Anthony Howard are arriving to be met by the Victorian Premier, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Shrine Trustee Roger Clifton, and Vietnam Veterans Victoria Branch State President Mr Bob Elworthy. The official party will make their way to the VIP enclosure opposite the flag masts and take their seat in the VIP enclosure. Step-off is due at 11 o'clock. We wait for the governor to arrive.
Get down, get down. Oh, they were. Shit.
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, visitors from around Victoria and visitors from around Australia, welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance. Shrine Life Governor, Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Lombardo, will now deliver an acknowledgement of country.
Veterans, ladies and gentlemen, we recognise and embrace the diversity of our community and acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we honour Australian servicemen and women. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Defence assistance today is provided by Warrant Officer Class 1 Robert Jerevich, RSM Ceremonial Victoria, Tasmania. RSM Jerevich is Chief Marshal today, together with other ADF volunteers. The march will be led today by the Royal Australian Air Force Band under the music direction of Commanding Officer and Director of Music, Squadron Leader Daniel Phillips. Following the band will be cadets from Mentone Grammar, who carry 5 national flags in honour of the 521 Australians who paid the supreme sacrifice during the Vietnam War. And the New Zealand flag is carried in honour of their 37 fallen. Following the Australian flags, in a tribute to the nations that had boots on the ground in the fight against communist forces in Vietnam, Mentone cadets carry the national flags of Australia, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Republic of China, Taiwan, United States of America, former Republic of South Vietnam. Following the flags will be our Vietnam veterans and the Vietnamese veterans. Members of the City of Melbourne Highland Pipe Band, who have been playing today at the gunfire breakfast at the northern end of the forecourt, and also on the forecourt area today, will participate later during commemorations. The City of Melbourne Highland Pipe Band is led today by Mr. Finn Parsons. And so the step-off just a minute away. Vietnam Veterans Association Victorian Branch, Vietnam Veterans Day 2022. The first unit in, the last unit out. 1962, the Australian Army Training Team, as mentioned before, and the last out in 1972, 56th anniversary Battle of Long Tan that is commemorated each year here at the Shrine of Remembrance, and the 50th anniversary withdrawal of the last Australian combat troops from Australia's area of operations in South Vietnam. And today a special tribute to the diggers, those involved in the Vietnam War, and for those who will remember those years of 62 to 72, a musical treat coming your way today by those who not only served in Vietnam, but those who played for the troops in Vietnam will play today. But more about them a little later. So, to 11 a.m, and the ceremony step-off is about to occur. The Vietnam Veterans Commemoration Day welcomes the Governor of Victoria and the Premier of Victoria. Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, accompanied by Mr Anthony Howard, and the Victorian Premier, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, MP, Shrine Trustee Mr Roger Clifton, and Vietnam Veterans Victoria State Branch President Mr Bob Elworthy. Today's march being led by the Royal Australian Air Force Band. And your applause for them as they pass would be most fitting. Behind the Air Force Band, the team. I mentioned before the Army training team, first into Vietnam and the last out, march proudly behind the national flags of Australia and the flags as depicted in our preamble today. Flags of Australia, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Republic of China, Taiwan, United States of America, and the former Republic of South Vietnam. Army Training Team. Paraded in the march today, the United States 173rd Airborne Brigade flag. The flag is acknowledgement of the association formed when one RAR battle group was deployed to Vietnam in 1965 and attached to the US 173rd Airborne Brigade. So sinners may stop marching up.
Wait for the RSM will try and get some sort of a help on there for us to make it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please all be upstanding for the vice-regal salute. The RSM has called fall out, and with great interest, everyone took notice of the RSM just like yesteryear. Well done, chaps and ladies. I draw your attention now to the two large screens.
I come from the dream time, from the dusty red soil plains. I am the ancient heart, I am the keeper of the flame. I stood upon a rocky shore, I watched the tall ships come. For 60,000 years I've been the first Australian.
When I came upon the prison ships bound down by iron chains, I thought the land endured the lash and waited for the rain. I'm a settler,
I'm a farmer's wife,
on a dry and barren run, a convict, then a free man I became, straight in.
I'm a daughter of a digger who sold the motherland. The world became a woman on that long and dusty road. I'm a child of the Depression, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australia.
I'm the teller of the stories, I'm the singer of the songs. I'm Albert Namatjura, and I paint the ghostly guns. I'm Clancy on his horse, I'm Ned Kelly on the run. I'm the one who was Matilda, I am Australian.
And I'm the hot wind from the desert, I'm the black soil from the plains, I'm the mountains and the valleys, I'm the flooding, drought and rains. I am the rock, I am the sky, I'm the rivers when they run. I am this great broad land, I am Australian.
We are one, and we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australia. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australia. I am, you are, we are Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a song I wrote in 1983. Today, of all days, I do it for the 50,000 men and women who served in Vietnam, for the 520 who came home, for the mums and dads, wives, brothers and sisters who picked up the pieces when those Australians did come home. I do it also for those Australians who are wearing our uniform overseas today in places that we don't even know about. And I do this song in the very fervent hope that at some point during the evolution of the species, mankind can learn to settle its differences without pointing guns at each other. Mum and Dad and Denny saw the passing out parade. Puckapunyal was a long march from cadets, and the 6th Battalion was the next to tour. It was me who drew the card. We did Canungra, Shoalwater before we left, and Townsville lined the footpaths as we marched down to the quay. This clipping from the paper shows us young and strong and clean. And there's me in my slouch hat with me SLR and greens. God help me, I was only 19. From Longtail right and Chooks to the dust of Nui Dat, I've been in and out of choppers now for months. made our tents for home TV and pin-ups on the lockers and an Asian orange sunset through the scrub. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? 9 times just a jungle dart and a barking M16. And what's this rash that comes and goes? Can you tell me what it means? God help me. I was only 19. 4-week operation, when each step could mean your last one on 2 legs. It was a war within yourself. You wouldn't let your mates down till they had you dusted off. So you closed your eyes and you thought about something else. And then so I yelled out, contact front, and the bloke behind me swore. We hooked in there for hours, then it got all muddy raw. Frankie kicked a mine the day that mankind kicked the moon. God help me. He was going home in June. And I can still see Frankie drinking tinnies in the Grand Hotel on a 36-hour rec leave in Bungtow. And I can still hear Frankie lying screaming in the jungle till the morphine came and killed the bloody row. And the Anzac legends didn't mention Martin, blood and tears, and the stories that my father told me never seemed quite real. And I caught some pieces in the back that I didn't even feel. God help me. I was only 19. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? And why the Channel 7 shopper chills me to my feet? And what's this rash that comes and goes? Can you tell me what it means? God help me. I was only 19.
The song that resonates in the hearts of all, John Schumann's I Was Only 19. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome...
What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to
Check on
beware.
a small adjustment here.
I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. start a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop now. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Children, what's that sound?
Would you please welcome Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria.
Yep. Could I start with some acknowledgements? Firstly, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Premier of Victoria, Jordan Crinali, representing the Minister for Veterans, the Honourable Tim Bull, Shadow Minister for Veterans, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Bob Elworthy, Victorian President of the Vietnam Veterans Association of Australia, Roger Clifton, Shrine Trustee, Victorian Senior Officers of the Australian Defence Force, Ross Gunther, Acting Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police, Viv Nguyen, Chair of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, Des Callaghan, State Senior Vice President, and members of RSL Victoria and members of other ex-service organisations, members of the Consular Corps and distinguished guests. Can I also start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathering and by paying my respects to their elders past and present and to elders of other communities who may be with us today. I also want to acknowledge the past and present members of the Australian Defence Force who are with us here, and I do want to thank each and every one of you for your service. As you all know, Vietnam Veterans Day falls on the anniversary of the Battle of Long Tan. Long Tan was a war within that war, a brief, brutal battle fought on one monsoon-drenched afternoon in 1966 when 105 Australian and 3 New Zealand soldiers, supported by American and Anzac artillery and RAF helicopters, stood their ground against overwhelming odds. Much has been written and said about that one day in the more than 3,700 days that Australians fought in Vietnam. I want to take this opportunity to speak of the day after that day. It was the morning of 19 August 1966 when the Australians returned to the rubber plantation where they had fought more than 2,000 Viet Cong and North Vietnamese troops. What they found was utter devastation. The plantation had been unmade by more than 3,000 artillery shells. In the midst of the carnage, a former British Army officer called Brian Wickens found a line of Australian soldiers in firing position. Wickens called out to the Australians, but they didn't respond. In fact, it's well known now, they had not survived the battle. Speaking decades later, Wickens said that the way those Australians died fighting was the bravest thing he ever saw on any battlefield, anywhere. For me, 3 particular thoughts come to mind when I think of the 18 Australians who lost their lives at Long Tan. First, Some were then even too young to vote. Only one was older than 21. He was 22. Secondly, they were both conscripts and volunteers, and to the end, they stuck together. And thirdly, the Battle of Long Tan is representative of all the other days, weeks, months, and years of the Vietnam War, during which so many young Australians put themselves in peril in the service of our nation. It's difficult to comprehend, let alone repay, a sacrifice as ultimate as the one those young men made on our behalf. And there is a temptation, I think, on days such as this, to try to put our words into the mouths of those who served, to try to describe their sacrifices on our own terms. I don't want to do that today. Danger Close is a book about Long Tan, written by the commanders who were closely involved in the fighting. Let me turn to just a few of their words, the words of veterans who speak of grief, service, and the sacrifice of families, words encapsulating much of the Vietnam experience. Major Harry Smith, as he then was, commander of 6RAR's Delta Company, spoke of the cost of battle, saying, "I get very emotional when I think of those we lost and how the rest of us were lucky to survive. As with other Delta Company veterans, a tear or two comes to my eyes whenever I dwell on the tour." The then Lieutenant Dave Sabin, who I believe is here with us today, who commanded 12 Platoon, encapsulated the commitment to service when he said, "I believe now as I did then that the citizens of a nation are responsible to and for their nation. Those not prepared to defend the nation, its freedoms, as well as its territory, are doomed to lose what they can't or won't defend." And the then Lieutenant Adrian Roberts, commander of the armoured personnel carriers that relieved Delta Company, reflected the toll on families when he said, "In the first 10 years of our marriage, I was to spend a total of 5 years away on Vietnam postings. Somehow, my wife held things together with the children." And so today, 60 years after the first Australian soldiers landed in Vietnam, 50 years after the last soldiers left Vietnam, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of all Victorians to thank the almost 60,000 Australians who served in and the 521 Australians who lost their lives in Vietnam. We are forever in your debt, and lest we forget.
On behalf of all present, thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. Please welcome the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Premier of Victoria, to address us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I begin my remarks by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land and paying my deep personal respects to elders past and present, to Her Excellency the Governor of Victoria, Linda Dessau, and Tony Howard, who are here. It is a great privilege for me to follow the very eloquent remarks just made by Her Excellency. To my parliamentary colleagues, to representatives of Defence Force personnel who serve here in Victoria, to ex-service organisation leadership that are here as well, a very special mention to Bob Elworthy and others who work so very hard to stand up for and advocate on behalf of Vietnam veterans and the veteran community and their families more broadly. Can I also, on this day, acknowledge, particularly in this place, all of those men and women who this very hour serve in the defence of our freedom. We acknowledge them for the great sacrifice that they make. Today's not a day about politicians. Today's not a day about long speeches. Today is a day about each and every one of you. And it is an opportunity for us to thank you for your service, to acknowledge your sacrifice, to acknowledge the weight of that service And the fact that that weight was made heavier to carry because of the terrible way in which you were treated when your service ended. This is the 50th anniversary of the end of our deployment. It is 50 years since the end of our withdrawal from Vietnam. I will forever remember being in this place just a few years ago when we marked the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Long Tan. And I said then, and I feel obliged to say it again now, it's never too late to say sorry, especially if you mean it. Can I acknowledge not just those servicemen and women who are here with us today, who are the best of us? Can I acknowledge your wives and partners, husbands, family members, kids, all of whom are on this journey and all of whom should be acknowledged and thanked for your service and everything that you have done over these decades. The Vietnam veteran community is strong and proud. The Vietnam veteran community has a dignity and a tenacity that is, in my experience, quite awesome. You stand up for what is right, you fight for what is needed, and I think that so many others in the veteran community, particularly contemporary conflict veterans, owe to the Vietnam veteran community a great deal. The pension work, the welfare work, that helping hand, that sense of campaigning, that sense of always seeking justice and recognition, support and kindness. That's something that does the Vietnam veteran community and their leadership great credit. The challenge, as the Governor so eloquently put it on a day like today, is to try and capture, to try and describe that service and sacrifice. It's very difficult to do that. What is a little easier, and I think just as important, is to take steps to make sure that our children and our grandchildren know the story of this war, know the story of your service, know the story of your sacrifice, and never ever forget those 521 Australians who did not come home. That's why it is so important that we build that museum down at Phillip Island. That's why it's so important that we continue to run school-based programs so that this part of our history is remembered, is revered, is understood, and is a beacon and a message to all of us about the future. I know that across the Parliament we are all committed to achieving that and more. Just finally, this day we of course focus on Long Tan and the fact that it is a tragic, brutal but stunning example of a force well outnumbered with long-range artillery support, determination, bravery, courage, strategy and tactics, overcoming quite unprecedented odds. It's taught today, and not just at Duntroon, it's taught the world over as a quite amazing example. It is one moment, one tragic and brutal moment, but it speaks to the courage, to the conviction, to the bravery, to the service and sacrifice of those directly involved and to every single member of our proud and strong Vietnam veteran community. I am honoured and humbled to be among you today. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for all that you have given on this day, lest we forget.
Thanks also to you, Premier, for your very spirited words. I'd like to acknowledge formally our entertainers today who have so brilliantly captured the spirit not only of the era but of their personal input to the Vietnam conflict. Mr. Normie Rowe, who served with the Army. Denise Drysdale, entertainer. Marcy Jones, entertainer. Mr. John Schumann and Mr. Mike Brady.
A friend of mine lives on the Gold Coast, a little town called Springbrook, up on the mountain right behind the centre of the strip. When he was a young bloke, he had two good mates. The three of them were inseparable at high school. They played footy together, they surfed, they did all the things young blokes did during that period of time. And as the years went on, it became the time for them to submit their papers for national service. They were country boys and thought this was a great opportunity to serve together and experience the adventure of a lifetime. They submitted their papers, and only two of the three boys were called up. And this friend of mine, Colin, he was left behind, languishing and wondering how his mates might fare. His two mates went into the Australian Army, subsequently were sent to Vietnam. Sadly, only one returned safely, the other was killed in action. Colin always wondered how his mate might have fared after his service, and so observed the life of the surviving Vietnam veteran and his Vietnam veteran friends, and wrote those observations into first a poem and then into the lyrics of this song. I remember how it happened in the 60s. I was talking to some friends about the war when an old man who'd been listening walked up to me, and I saw the RSL badge that he wore. He said, "Son, the time is coming when you'll have to shoot a gun, and I hope you won't be backward when you find the time has come to stand up for your country and start marching to a drum, the way that your fathers did before, singing, what have you done for Australia? This country you're so proud to call your own. If you hear people talk of gloom and failure, tell them you don't want to know. Tell them you don't want to know. Well, the years went past and me and me mates, we were sent to Vietnam to keep the commie peril there at bay. But the locals didn't welcome us with smiles or open arms, and we couldn't understand the things they'd say. We were shot at in the jungles, blown up in the towns, and the spray from our own choppers turned the bush from green to brown. And many young Australians lost their lives on foreign ground, the way that their fathers did before, singing, what have you done for Australia? This country you're so proud to call your own. If you hear people talk of gloom and failure, tell them you don't want to know. Tell them you don't want to know. Oh. Well, they flew us back into Sydney in the middle of the night. And we marched through city streets in that fog dawn's early light. And ever since then, they've done their best to keep us out of sight. No one gives a damn about that war. And now I'm living in a rented house, my hair once black is grey. It's hard to keep a wife and kids on a soldier's pension pay. And the only time it seems worthwhile is when we march on Anzac Day, the way that our fathers did before, singing, what have you done for Australia? This country you're so proud to call your own. If you hear people talk of gloom and failure, tell them you don't want to know. Tell them you don't want to know. What have you done for Australia? If you hear people talk of gloom and fear, tell them you don't want to know. 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 Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce you a dear friend of mine for well over 50 years. She's been a mate, toured with me the first time I ever travelled around Australia with her own self-penned song, Daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Marcy Jones.
Hello everyone, how are you? Bloody cold. The last time I was here and I sang with Denise for you, on the way home that day she said to me, why don't you write a song about the Vietnam veterans, about the children? And so on the way home I had a thought and I wrote this song. It's about First World War, Second World War, the Vietnam War, and today. And it's about the children of their mothers and fathers who have to go to war. And I won Best Female Vocal in the Victorian Country Music Awards with this song in 2009. I was very thrilled. So I'd like to sing it for you now. Daddy. What are you fighting for? I don't understand why you Daddy, what are you leaving for? Daddy, I am 6 years old today. My mommy has sent me out to play. A man came to our door, now she's crying on the floor. The letter in her hand is wet and stained. Daddy, I am 10 years old today. They tell me you're coming in a plane. We're all crying with delight, 'cause you came through that fight, but you will never walk the same again. Oh, Daddy, what are you fighting for? I don't understand why you have to go to war. Oh, Daddy, it's so far away, a place where all the children play. Oh, Daddy, what are you leaving for? Daddy, I am 16 years today. This is your birth. I hope that I'm not getting in your way. You cry in your sleep at night. You still hear the battle cry. Please, God, make your nightmares go away. Please go away. And Daddy, I am 26 today. They tell me that I have to go away. It's in a different place, but it's still a human race. Now I will have to tell my kids the same, and they'll say, oh, Daddy, what are you fighting for? I don't understand why you have to go to war. Oh, Daddy, it's so far away, a place where all the children play. Oh, Daddy, what are you leaving for? Oh, Daddy, please don't leave me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Miss Marcy Jones. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we return to the stage, Mr. John Schumann.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next song was not written by me. It was written by Don Walker from Cold Chisel, who graciously allowed me to change the words to the very first line because Australians weren't at Khe-Sanh. Well, I owe my life to the choppers at Long Tan, and I sold my soul with my cigarettes to the black market man. had the Vietnam cold turkey from the ocean to the Silver City, and it's only the vets could understand about the long-forgotten dockside guarantees. There were no V-Day heroes in 1973, and we sailed into Sydney Harbour, saw an old friend but I couldn't kiss her. She was blind and I was home to the lucky land. She was like so many more from that time on, and their lives were all so empty till they found their chosen one. And the legs were often open, but their minds were always closed, and their hearts were held in vast suburban chains. And the legal pads were yellow, hours long pay packets lean, and the telex riders clattered where the gunships once had been. And car parks made me jumpy, and I never stopped the dreams or the growing need for speed and Novocaine. So I travelled around the country from end to end, trying to find a place to settle down where my mixed up life could mend. I got a job on an oil rig, flying choppers when I could, but the nightlife nearly drove me round the bend. I've travelled around the world from year to year, and each one found me aimless. One more year, for worse for wear. I've been back to Southeast Asia, but the answer sure ain't there. And I'm drifting north to check things out again. The last plane out of Sydney's almost gone, and in 7 flying hours I'll be landing in Hong Kong. And there's nothing like the kisses of a jaded Chinese princess. Gonna hit some Hong Kong mattress all night long. And the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone, and the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. You know it's really got me worried, I'm going nowhere and I'm in a hurry. You know the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. Tony Buffino, ladies and gentlemen, on guitar.
Thank you very much, John. One of the great times we had in Vietnam was to spend an afternoon watching the Australian entertainers who came to Vietnam just to entertain us, each of them earning the grand total of $1 a day, just to be there. At the time, the Vietnam War was controversial and their careers may very well have been in jeopardy, and still they came and gave us a taste of home. One of our great and wonderful entertainers was the late Lorraine Desmond, who went to Vietnam 5 times, and as we called her our girl, she called us her boys. So in honor of her, we'd like to do her favorite song, Leaving on a Jet Plane.
My bags are packed, I'm ready to go.
dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blowing its horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could cry. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Tell me like you never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
So many times I've let you down. So many times I've played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing.
Every place I go, I'll think of you. Every song I'll sing to you. When I come back, I'll wear your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
Now the time has come for me to leave you. One more time to let me kiss you. Then close your eyes and I'll be on my way.
Dream about the days to come when I won't have to leave alone. About the time I won't have to say.
Sing with us.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Yes, I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. On a jet plane. Leaving when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. On a jet plane. Leaving on a jet plane. Leaving on a jet plane. On a jet plane. On a jet plane.
Thank you.
Well, this is a Vietnam Veterans Day with a difference. Would you please join with me again in thanking Normie Rowe, 3rd Cavalry Regiment, Denise Drysdale, Marcy Jones, John Schumann, and Mike Brady. The City of Melbourne Highland Pipe Band have positioned for this next poignant moment in this commemoration today. I draw your attention again to the screens and the pipe band, to lone pipers Then the pipe band and the Royal Australian Air Force Band will join in honour of our fallen Vietnam Anzacs.
This song I'm about to do is a tribute to the founding of the RSL way back in 1916. And of course it was probably the first men's shed, although the women were invited and in fact some became members. It's called This Place. It's an abridged version, but it's all about how I feel about this great institution, the RSL. Here we go. Place that they might come to share a yarn or two and remember fallen comrades, these Aussies tried and true. That they had seen and done so much that only they could know. They gathered to remember and they put their hearts on show. We built this place that they might come to share with one another. Those heroes of Australia, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers. For their mates and king and country, they had answered the call. This place was their place to share both one and all. This place is their times to stand to remember those they left behind, and they still stand together, help each other out. This place is there, and it's what we're still about. This place is their place, and it's why we're here today. This place is their place, and it's why we're here today. Thank you. My father proudly marched in many parades, including Anzac Day. He was an Irishman who became a regimental sergeant major in the British Army in the Royal Leicesters. He's been dead a long time, and I didn't understand him. And we speak of the trauma of war, but I had no idea that my father's problems were largely down to his experiences during the war. It's called My Son Introduced Me to My Dad, and if I can get this damn thing off. Sorry, I can't get it off. Getting that off there and turning the black book around. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's on the back of the back. Yeah, sorry, it's called My Son Introduced Me to My Dad, and it's about a book my son, who was very young at the time, wrote, and it's about to be published. And it goes like this. There was a man I hardly knew. He made my mum his wife. He didn't give a lot away about his troubled life. We had a clash of reasons, ideology and the like. Two speeding locomotives, one named Bob and one named Mike. You see, Bob was an old soldier who'd seen more than his share. What a human being should ever have to bear. Mike was full of youthful fire, just living in the now. So it came as no surprise at all there'd be some mighty row. Life is full of mysteries, and to me my dad was one. He wore the scars of battle, knew the tyranny of gun. I knew nothing till just recently of this Irish soldier lad, till my youngest wrote a book and introduced me to my dad. Now he's been gone nearly 50 years, it's like he's come back from the dead. My son had found the story of what was happening in his head. It was like hope had lost its meaning somewhere out there in the grime. Like many before and after him, the scars didn't deal with time. Life is full of mysteries, and to me my dad was one. He wore the scars of battle, knew the tyranny of gun. I knew nothing till just recently of this Irish soldier lad, till my youngest son stood up and introduced me to my dad. Well, we didn't see each other much, but we finally made up. And just a few days later, he took his last sip from life's cup. I'd known nothing till just recently of this Irish soldier lad, till my youngest son stood up and introduced me to my dad. Till my youngest son stood up and introduced me to my dad. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Brady. So many of the fights that were a part of us coming home were by very selfless people. Right now, Mr. John Schumann will sing about one of those particular people for whom we owe, as Vietnam veterans, a great gratitude, and we should never forget the efforts to which this man, whom John will tell you, went to for us.
Thanks, Normie. This song is about my friend Phil Thompson, who was the president of the Vietnam Veterans Association, the father of the veterans movement. And he came to my motel room one night because he'd heard this left-wing bearded songwriter from Adelaide had written a song about Vietnam veterans, and he wanted to check it and me out, and he scared me to death. We became really good mates, and when Phil checked out, I did what I said I was never going to do again, and that was write another song about the Vietnam War. This one's for Phil. It's called Safe Behind the Wire. Bodies were bagged, the telegram sent, and the very last chopper had gone. and you looked out the window of the 707 on the airfield in Saigon. Some of us thought that the war was over, some of us couldn't care less. There you came home and threw a stay-behind party to try to clear up the mess. I don't know where you are tonight, I'm down here in a firefight, but wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. We were fighting for freedom in Southeast Asia, that's how the story ran. A windy speech was about a domino falling from China into Vietnam. But look back in sickness and anger, Australia didn't honour her dead. And non-commissioned officer Thompson learned that the war wasn't over yet. Living on your nerves, living on the phone, sleeping in airports far from home, and dusted off now and safe behind the wire. Well, he gave and he gave and he kept on giving till he just couldn't give any more. And he gave it away one morning in Sydney in a rust-red Commodore. And I remember Phil Best talking on the phone with a cheeky grin on his face, because Royal Commissioners and Knights of the Realm thought that Phil didn't know his place. I don't know where you are tonight, I'm down here in a firefight, but wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. And they're still bagging bodies, Phil, though 50 years have gone. And the mums and the dads and the wives and the kids still have to soldier on. I don't know where you are tonight, I'm down here in a firefight, but wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire. And I don't know where you are tonight, I'm down here in a firefight, but wherever you are, I hope you're safe behind the wire.
Mr. John Schumann, what a great voice, ladies and gentlemen. Just unique. And now, our two lovely ladies of song and the other things that Denise does.
Don't be rude, Norm.
If you were part of the 11th intake, you may have been privy to a concert we put on at the end of my time at the Puckapunyal recruit training. And Denise came along to sing for us, and she wanted to do my song, Shakin' All Over, which was fine by the band. They loved it, except that she wanted to do it in a completely different key, and they didn't know how to play it there. So she always acquits herself.
We got through. Can I
Ladies
just
and
say
gentlemen.
one thing? Mr. Daniel Andrews is here today, and I wanted to say what a wonderful job you did during COVID. And for anybody that had a go at him, could you have taken over the job and done better? That's what I say. You did a brilliant job, and thank you very much on behalf of Victoria.
On you, Daniel.
Hey! Righto, let's go.
Enough of politics.
This is...
They were lonely heroes, the men who went to war. Lonely heroes, they didn't know the score of the battles and the horror that only war can bring for the lonely heroes.
Some were only boys who came from nearby farms, and the only guns they've ever held were to keep the rabbits down. to fight till the war was won.
And what do you say to a father when he says to your face, he said, look after him, won't you, son? Bring him back safe. Then on that fateful day, when your mate is blown away and you wish it were you instead, so you didn't have to say.
No, you didn't have to say. They were the lonely heroes, the boy who went to war. Lonely heroes, they didn't know the score of the battles and the horror of that lonely war can bring for the lonely heroes. Peace comes with a fight, and peace comes at a price. And so, for all of you who've been there, we thank you for your sacrifice. You gave with your lives, and we wish with all our might that you were here today. So we didn't have to say, no, we didn't have to say, they were the lonely heroes, men who went to war. Lonely heroes, they didn't know the score of the battles and the horror, and only one can bring for the lonely heroes. They were the lonely heroes.
Thank you.
Denise Drysdale, Marcy Jones. From my point of view, some of the people who did it tough or toughest during the Vietnam War were the parents, the mums and dads, the brothers and sisters, the next door neighbours, the girlfriends, the wives, the children, the people who were left behind languishing over what might be happening to their loved ones way before the time of Skype, mobile phones, and being able to communicate with your loved one in a war zone was this period of time during the Vietnam War. For a whole year, apart from some scant mail that they would receive, for a whole year, they didn't know what was going on with their loved one in that war zone. Those people, for those people, the people who were left behind, this song. My need, you have always been there. He is young, he is afraid. Let him rest. Heaven blessed. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him home. He's like the sun I might have known if God had granted me a son with the summer sky, one
can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. And if I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your intense attention to all the entertainment here. On behalf of all of my fellow artists, we thank you so very dearly. Thank you.
And thank you, Normie Rowe. The backing music today by Normie's Playboys Band. Years have gone by. By gee, the 1960s, the Playboys. Every radio station was on the job. Thank you, Normie. Thank you to our entertainers Denise Drysdale, Marcy Jones, John Schumann and Mike Brady. With the Shrine Guard, Catafalque Party, take post.
Catafalque Party! Reverse! Catafalque Party, banner right! Slow!
The official wreath-laying parties are preparing to move forward in a few moments for the wreath-laying ceremony. The Royal Australian Air Force Band will play a quiet refrain during this period. I invite Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Dessau, Governor of Victoria, and Mr Howard, on behalf of the people of Victoria. I invite the Honourable Daniel Andrews, Premier of Victoria, on behalf of the Government of Victoria, and Ms Jordan Krugnall for the Victorian Minister for Veterans on behalf of veterans, and Mr Bob Elworthy, Vietnam Veterans Association Australia, Victorian State President on behalf of Vietnam veterans. I invite the Australian Defence Force representatives, Royal Australian Navy Commander Peter Martin, Australian Army Major General Andrew Botterill, and Royal Australian Air Force Group Captain Noel Corbett. To step forward, Mr Bruce Mildenhall, representing the Victorian Veterans Council, and Mr David Sabin, Long Tan Platoon Commander. the New Zealand Consulate and US Consulate representatives, New Zealand Consulate Flight Lieutenant Liam Barrick, US Consulate Kathleen Lively. Would all Vietnam veteran sub-branches please come forward in the groups as called. VVAA Victorian Branch Education Team, Mr Bob Pace. Ballarat, Mr Eric Duggan. Box Hill, Mr Rod Burgess. Central Highlands, Mr Ken Bryce. Sub-branches Diamond Valley, Mr Paul Vaughan. Frankston, Mr Kelvin Park. Geelong and District, Mr Rennie Neuenhoff. Gippsland, Mr Jeff Hopkins. Vietnam Veterans Headquarters, Mr Terry Cartledge. Maryborough, Mr Lee Turton. Melton, Mr Jim Fitzgerald. Mornington Peninsula, Mr Gary Taylor. And the Museum, Mr John Medvin. and the following sub-branches: Noble Park, Mr. Ray McCarthy; Northwest Melbourne, Mr. Tom Clayton; Outer Eastern Melbourne, Mr. Amit Binmore; RAAF, Mr. Max McGregor; and Swan Hill, Mr. Harold Heslop. The Royal Australian Regiment Association Victorian Branch, Mr. Abdur Rami Rahman; and 6th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, Mr. Paul Baraldo. That group also included 8th Battalion, Graham Agnew, and National Service Association of Australia Victorian State Branch, Robert McIver. Royal Australian Engineers, Vietnam Veterans Association Victoria, Mr. Alan Brown. Royal Australian Army Electrical and Mechanical Engineers Vietnam Southern Chapter, Dennis Clark. Stepping forward, Partners of Veterans Association Victoria, Mrs. Cheryl Myers; Mentone Grammar School; Vietnamese Veterans Victoria, Hoang Chin Dan; Vietnamese Community, Mr. Bon Nguyen and Mr. Lai Con Thach; Victorian Multicultural Commission, Ms. Vivian Nguyen. and I include 161 Recce Flight in that wreath-laying party. Mr. Tom Jobling. Any others amongst us today who wish to lay a wreath or floral tribute, please do so at the end of today's service. And we thank TPI Association, Mr. Peter Holtz, also for participating in the wreath-laying ceremony today. Mr. Peter Holtz, TPI, steps forward. Shrine Guard Catafalque Party, please stand down. And at this point, would the Flag Party also please march off? Thank you.
Parade will advance. Parade. March.
I invite Normie Rowe, 3rd Cavalry Regiment, Vietnam 1969, to step forward to read the ode.
They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. Please remain standing for the New Zealand National Anthem, led today by the Royal Australian Air Force Band, vocalist LACW Chloe Brewer-Jones.
Uniform party! General salute! Present! Up!
Catapult party to march off.
Catapult party! In one! Catapult party by the right! Work!
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam veterans one and all, on behalf of the VVAA Victorian branch, thank you for your attendance today, and especially we thank the Australian Defence Force members, Royal Australian Air Force Band, our entertainers, the City of Melbourne Highland Pipe Band and Mentone Grammar Cadets for their support at today's commemoration. Anyone wishing to place a personal floral tribute at the eternal flame is now invited to do so. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention today. VIP guests and official parties proceed now to the Shrine Visitor Centre, escorted by VVAA Victorian State President Mr Bob Elworthy and Mr Brendan Kincaid.